I gave her everything she asked for: the ring, the visa, my name. I thought teaching her English would bring us closer. But the only lesson she needed was how to leave, and I was too blind to see it coming. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was shared with us by one of our viewers. I met Anne on my third week teaching English at a small language school in Chiang Mai. The classroom smelled like jasmine and chalk dust, and ceiling fans spun lazily overhead, barely cutting through the humid air. She sat in the front row, notebook open, eyes bright with focus. 31 years old, but her energy felt younger, eager, curious, almost childlike in how she raised her hand for every question. I was 57, freshly retired from 30 years of teaching secondary English in Manchester, recently divorced, and desperately trying to feel useful again. Thailand wasn't my first choice for starting over. It was just the cheapest. After my first class ended, she approached my desk with that notebook clutched to her chest. "Teacher Graham," she said, her voice soft and careful. "Can I practice more? My English not so good." I laughed and told her it was better than she thought. Her smile widened. "You very kind, teacher. Not like others." Something about the way she said it made me feel seen, needed. I hadn't felt that in years. We started meeting twice a week at a cafe near the school. She'd bring her workbook filled with grammatical exercises and vocabulary lists. I'd correct her verb tenses and pronunciation. She'd laugh at my terrible attempts to say anything in Thai beyond hello and thank you. "You say it wrong," she'd giggle, covering her mouth. "Say again." And I would, just to hear her laugh. It felt innocent. It felt necessary. After my ex-wife left me for a younger colleague at our school, I'd forgotten what it felt like to make someone smile. Within 2 months, those study sessions became dinners. We'd walk through the night markets together, her hand brushing against mine as we navigated the crowded stalls. She'd point at things: silk scarves, wooden carvings, street food I couldn't identify, and ask me the English words. "What this called?" she'd say, holding up a mango sticky rice. "Dessert," I'd reply. "Dessert," she'd repeat, testing the word on her tongue. Then she'd buy 2 and hand me one. "We share," she'd say. I told myself it was just kindness, cultural hospitality. But when her fingers lingered on mine as she passed me the plastic spoon, I knew it was becoming something else. By the 3rd month, we were holding hands as we walked through the old city. I didn't plan to fall for her. I didn't plan for any of this. But loneliness has a way of rewriting your boundaries, erasing the lines you thought you'd never cross. One evening, sitting by the moat as the sun set, she rested her head on my shoulder. "Graham," she said quietly, "I feel safe with you." I didn't know what to say, so I just put my arm around her and held her close. One afternoon after class, she asked if I could help her with something important. "I want to apply for a job at International Hotel," she said, pulling out a crumpled job posting from her bag. "But application all in English. Very difficult for me." I looked at the form. It wasn't that difficult, but I understood why it felt overwhelming to her. "Of course I'll help," I said. We spent 2 hours at that cafe, going through each question, crafting her answers, polishing her cover letter. When we finished, she grabbed my hand across the table. "Thank you, Teacher Graham. If my English good, I get better life. You helping me so much." The way she looked at me, gratitude mixed with something warmer, made me feel like I mattered, like I was doing something good, something important. I didn't realize I was already being led down a path I couldn't turn back from. 3 months into whatever we were becoming, Anne invited me to meet her family. We were sitting at our usual cafe when she mentioned it, her voice careful, almost rehearsed. "My family want to meet you," she said, stirring her iced coffee slowly. "They live in Village, 2 hours from here. We go this weekend, yes?" I felt my stomach tighten. I knew enough about Thai culture to understand this wasn't casual. Meeting the family meant something. It meant we were serious. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I mean, we've only been seeing each other for a few months." She reached across the table and took my hand. "They want to meet the kind teacher who helped me. That's all. Just dinner." But it wasn't just dinner, and I knew it. The drive to her village felt longer than 2 hours. Anne sat beside me in the rented car, quiet, her hands folded in her lap. When I asked if she was nervous, she shook her head. "No, I just hope you like them." I wanted to ask if she hoped they liked me, but I didn't. When we finally pulled up to her family's house, I understood why she'd been quiet. The house was small, wooden, raised on stilts with a corrugated metal roof. Chickens wandered the dirt yard. Laundry hung on a line stretched between two trees. This wasn't poverty, but it was far from comfortable. Her mother, Suda, greeted me at the base of the stairs with a way, her hands pressed together, her head bowed. She was smaller than Anne, her face lined with years of sun and work, but her smile was warm. "Sawatika," she said softly. I returned the way, hoping I was doing it right. Her father, Somchai, stood at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, watching me. When I climbed up to meet him, he extended his hand. His grip was firm, his face unreadable. "You teacher," he said in broken English. "Yes," I replied. "English teacher." He nodded slowly, still watching me like I was a puzzle he hadn't solved yet. Anne's younger brother barely acknowledged me, his eyes glued to his phone as he sat in the corner of the open-air living room. We sat on woven mats around a low table. Sud had prepared som tam, grilled fish, sticky rice, and a papaya salad so spicy it made my eyes water. Anne translated between us, her voice shifting between Thai and English, her tone brighter than usual. Her mother kept smiling at me, nodding, asking Anne questions I couldn't understand. Then her father spoke, his voice low and direct. Anne hesitated before translating. He asked, "How much money you make in England?" I laughed, uncomfortable. "That's a bit personal, isn't it?" Anne's face fell slightly. "In Thailand, it normal question. Family want to know if man can take care." I felt the weight of the question settle over me. This wasn't just about curiosity. This was an evaluation. "I'm retired," I said carefully. "I have a pension. It's enough to live comfortably," Anne translated. Her father nodded, but his expression didn't change. Her mother said something quickly, her tone lighter, and Anne smiled. "She say you look like good man, strong, healthy." I felt a strange mix of pride and pressure. I was being measured, assessed, and somehow I wanted to pass. Later that night, as we drove back to Chiang Mai, Anne rested her head on my shoulder. "My family like you," she said quietly. I glanced at her. "Your father didn't seem convinced," she laughed softly. "He just protective, but he think you stable. Good man." I didn't ask what that meant. Instead, I asked, "What do you think?" She lifted her head and looked at me, her eyes soft in the dim glow of the dashboard. "I think so too." A few days later, as we sat at the cafe, Anne mentioned her mother in passing. "She not feeling well," she said, staring into her coffee. "Heart problem. Need medicine every month." I asked if it was serious. Anne nodded. "Yes, medicine very expensive. My salary from salon not enough." She looked up at me, her eyes glassy. I tried to help, but her voice trailed off. I reached across the table and took her hand. "How much does the medicine cost?" She shook her head. "No, Graham, I not asking you." But I could see the weight in her face, the exhaustion, the quiet desperation. "How much, Anne?" She hesitated. 5,000 baht. Every month. About £120. Not much to me, a fortune to her. "Let me help," I said. She pulled her hand back. "No, you already do so much." "I can't." "Anne," I interrupted gently. "I want to help, please." Her eyes filled with tears. She looked down, then nodded slowly. "Okay, just this month. I pay you back." I knew she wouldn't. I didn't care. I handed her the cash the next day. She hugged me tightly, whispering thank you over and over against my chest. I felt like a hero. Like I'd done something noble. I didn't realize I'd just set a precedent I'd never escape. 6 months into our relationship, Anne brought up the visa. We were lying in bed in my small rented apartment, the fan spinning overhead, the sounds of Chiang Mai's streets drifting through the open window. She turned to me, her head on my chest, her fingers tracing absent patterns on my skin. "Graham," she said softly, "I want to visit UK with you. See where you're from." I smiled, imagining taking her to Manchester, showing her the Peak District, maybe even my old school. "I'd love that," I said. She was quiet for a moment. Then she added, "But visa very hard for Thai people. They think we run away, not come back." I knew what she meant. I'd heard stories from other expats about how difficult it was for Thai nationals to get tourist visas to the UK. The rejection rates were high. The scrutiny was intense. "We could try," I said. "Maybe if I write a letter, sponsor you." She shook her head. "Not enough. They want proof I have job, property, bank account with money. I have nothing. The weight of that truth settled over us. She had nothing. No property, no savings, a part-time job at a beauty salon that paid barely enough to survive. I held her closer, wishing I could fix it. Then she said almost too quietly, "Unless we married. Then I get spouse visa. We can live in UK together." My chest tightened. Marriage. I hadn't even thought that far. We'd only been together 6 months. I was 57. She was 31. The age gap alone would raise eyebrows. But as I looked at her, young, hopeful, holding on to me like I was her only way out of this life, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe this was what I needed too, a reason to start over. A companion who actually chose me. My ex-wife never looked at me the way Anne did. Never needed me the way Anne did. "Let me think about it," I said, my voice unsteady. She nodded, kissing my chest. "Okay, no pressure, Graham. I just want to be with you anywhere." I believed her. God help me, I believed her. The next evening, I met my friend David at a bar near the night bazaar. David was a British expat, mid-60s, who'd been living in Chiang Mai for over a decade. He knew the game. He knew the risks. When I told him Anne had suggested marriage, he set his beer down and looked at me hard. "Mate," he said slowly. "You've known her 6 months," I nodded. "I know. And you're thinking about marrying her for a visa." "It's not just for the visa," I said defensively. "I care about her. She cares about me." David sighed, rubbing his face. "Graham, I'm not saying she's a bad person, but you need to be careful. I've seen this before. Bloke falls for a local girl. She talks about the visa. Suddenly he's paying for everything, her family, her bills, her life. Then once she gets to the UK..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "She's different," I said, hating how defensive I sounded. David looked at me with something close to pity. "I hope you're right, mate." "I really do," but his eyes said he knew I wasn't. I proposed to Anne on a weekend trip to Pai. We'd taken a rented motorbike up the winding mountain roads, stopping at waterfalls and viewpoints along the way. By late afternoon, we stood on a hillside overlooking the valley, the sunset painting everything gold and orange. It felt like a postcard, like a moment I'd remember forever. I pulled the small box from my jacket pocket, my hands shaking. "Anne," I said, my voice barely steady. She turned to me, her eyes widening when she saw the ring. "I know this is fast. I know people will think I'm crazy. But I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me?" She didn't speak at first. She just stared at the ring. A simple silver band with a small stone, nothing extravagant, but it was all I could afford. And then her eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Graham, yes." She threw her arms around me and I held her as she cried into my shoulder. It felt real. It felt right. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't alone. We married 2 weeks later at the district office in Chiang Mai. The ceremony was efficient, bureaucratic, almost clinical. Her family came, Suda in a borrowed dress, Somchai in a clean shirt, her brother still glued to his phone. David came too, though I could see the concern etched in his face every time he looked at me. Anne wore a simple white dress she'd borrowed from a cousin. I wore the one decent button-up shirt I'd brought from England. The officiant spoke in Thai. Anne translated the important parts. We signed the papers. It took 15 minutes. Afterward, we went to a small restaurant in Ate Khao Soi. Her father stood and gave a toast in Thai. Anne translated, her voice proud. "He say, you good man. He hope we have happy life together." Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around the table, at Anne's smiling mother, her stoic father, her disinterested brother, my worried friend, and I told myself this was the right choice. That I was building something, that I wasn't just running from loneliness. That night, Anne and I lay in bed, her head on my chest, her hand over my heart. "Now we can start visa process," she whispered. "Now we can go to UK together, start real life." I nodded, holding her close, ignoring the small voice in my head that whispered I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. The UK spouse visa process was a nightmare I wasn't prepared for. It started simply enough. Download the forms, gather the documents, prove the relationship was genuine. But the deeper we got, the more suffocating it became. We needed bank statements showing I had enough income to support her. We needed proof of accommodation in the UK. We needed our marriage certificate translated and notarized. We needed photographs, emails, chat logs, evidence that our relationship was real, not a sham. And Anne needed to pass an English language test. I paid for everything. The application fee alone was nearly £1,500. Then there was the English test Anne had to take in Bangkok, another £200 for the exam, plus travel and accommodation. Then the immigration lawyer we hired to review our documents before submission, another £1,500. Every time I thought we were done, there was another cost, another requirement, another hoop to jump through. Anne became obsessed. Every morning she'd ask, "Did you upload the bank statements? Did you check the email? Did you write the letter?" I spent hours at my laptop, scanning documents, filling out forms, writing detailed explanations to the Home Office about how we met, why we fell in love, why our 26-year age gap shouldn't matter. I had to prove I earned at least $18,600 per year. I didn't have a job anymore, but my teacher's pension was just enough, barely. During this time, Anne stopped working. "I need to focus on visa," she said when I asked why she'd quit the salon. Too much stress. So I paid for everything. Her rent, her food, her mother's medicine, which had somehow become a monthly expectation rather than a one-time favor. When I tallied it up one night, I realized I'd already spent nearly £8,000 and we hadn't even submitted the application yet. But worse than the money was the shift in her. She stopped asking how my day was, stopped joining me for evening walks or dinners out. She'd sit on the couch, scrolling through her phone for hours, looking at UK property websites, job listings, pictures of London. When I asked what she was looking at, she'd say, "Just dreaming." But her tone was distant, detached, like I was already irrelevant. One evening I came home early and heard her laughing. She was on a video call speaking rapid Thai, her face bright and animated in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. When she noticed me, her expression flattened instantly. She said something quick in Thai and ended the call. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just friend," she said, setting her phone down. "From Salon." I didn't push it. I didn't want to know. The email arrived on a Wednesday morning. Subject line, "UK visas and immigration application decision." My hands shook as I opened it. "Your visa application has been approved." I stared at the words, reading them over and over, relief flooding through me. We'd done it. I grabbed my phone and called Anne. She screamed. Actually screamed. "We did it. Graham, we did it." She came over within the hour, practically vibrating with excitement. She called her mother immediately, shouting in Thai, laughing, crying. For a moment I felt the relief too. We'd cleared the biggest hurdle. But as I watched her pace the apartment, texting furiously, calling friends, talking non-stop about London and jobs and freedom, I realized something. She hadn't thanked me, not once. She didn't cry tears of joy or hug me or tell me she was grateful. She just smiled, grabbed her phone and started planning her new life. And I wasn't part of the conversation. Over the next 2 weeks, Anne packed her life into 2 suitcases without asking what I wanted to bring. She booked our flights without consulting me on dates or times. She talked constantly about London, about the jobs she'd apply for, the places she wanted to see, the life she was going to build. Every sentence started with I, not we. I tried to bring it up one night. "Anne," I said carefully, "I feel like you're not really here anymore. Like I'm just a ticket." She looked at me, genuinely surprised. "Graham, don't be silly. I love you." I just excited. She kissed my forehead like I was a child. "We go to UK tomorrow. Start new life. You and me." But her eyes didn't match her words. They were already somewhere else, somewhere I wasn't. That night I couldn't sleep. I got up to get water and saw her phone glowing on the table. I know I shouldn't have looked. I know it was wrong. But I did. The screen showed a Google search, UK divorce laws. I stared at it, my stomach sinking. When I asked her about it the next morning, she barely looked up from her coffee. "Someone at Salon asked me about it. I'm just curious." Her voice was flat, unconvincing. I didn't press it. I was too scared of the answer. We landed at Manchester Airport on a grey November morning. The cold hit us the moment we stepped outside, sharp and biting. So different from the humid warmth of Chiang Mai. Anne's first words were, "It's so cold." She pulled her thin jacket tighter and walked ahead of me toward the taxi rank. I tried to take her hand as we walked through the arrivals hall, but she pulled away. her eyes on her phone, already texting someone. I told myself she was just overwhelmed, adjusting. But something in my chest felt hollow. We took a cab to my flat in Salford. It wasn't much. One bedroom, outdated furniture, a view of a mostly empty car park, but it was mine. I'd lived there for 2 years after the divorce, and it had been enough for me. I'd imagined making it feel like home with Anne there. Maybe painting the walls, buying new furniture together, building something. But when we walked in, she looked around and said nothing. Just set her suitcase down and went to the window, staring out at the grey sky. That night, she slept on the far edge of the bed, her back to me. I lay awake, listening to her breathe, wondering when everything had changed. Within a week, Anne had her national insurance number. I'd helped her apply online, walked her through the forms, explained the system. She was efficient about it, focused. Within 2 weeks, she'd applied for jobs at 3 hotels in Manchester city centre. She printed her CV at the library, took the bus into town for interviews, came back and said nothing about how they went. We barely spoke. She cooked for herself, quick meals of rice and whatever vegetables she found at the Asian supermarket. She watched Thai dramas on her laptop with headphones in, shutting me out completely. When I suggested we go explore the city together, maybe visit the Christmas markets or walk around the northern quarter, she said, "I'm tired, Graham." Every night, I came home to find her on her laptop or her phone, speaking in Thai, her voice bright and animated, in a way it never was with me anymore. One evening I walked in to find her on a video call, laughing so hard she had tears in her eyes. The moment she saw me, her face went flat. She said something quickly in Thai and ended the call. "Just my friend," she said, closing the laptop. "From Thailand." I didn't ask who. I was too afraid of the truth. December came. The city filled with lights and decorations and the smell of mulled wine. I suggested we go to the Christmas market in Albert Square. Anne was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "I don't like Christmas," she said without looking up. I stood there, feeling something crack inside me. "You've never even experienced Christmas here," I said quietly. She shrugged. "I just don't like it." I realized in that moment that I didn't know her. Not really. I knew the version of her that needed me. The version that smiled and laughed and held my hand in Chiang Mai. But this version, cold, distant, uninterested, she was a stranger. And maybe she always had been. 3 months after we arrived in the UK, Anne told me she wanted a divorce. We were sitting in the living room. She was on the couch. I was in the chair by the window. She didn't build up to it, didn't soften the blow. She just said, "Graham, I want a divorce." I felt my chest collapse, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. "What?" My voice came out strangled. She looked at me, her face calm, almost detached. "I don't love you. I never did. I need to be honest now." The words hung in the air, sharp and final. I couldn't breathe. "Then why did you marry me?" I asked, my voice breaking. She didn't hesitate. "Because I need visa. My family need help. I need better life. You were kind. You helped me. But I don't want to be your wife." Each word was a knife, clean, precise, devastating. "Is there someone else?" I asked, even though I already knew. She hesitated, then nodded. "In Thailand. We together before I meet you. We still talk. He coming to UK soon." I felt sick, dizzy. "So everything, the lessons, the cafe, meeting your family, the wedding, it was all fake." She looked down at her hands. "Not all fake. I like you, Graham. You good man, you kind, but I don't love you. I'm sorry." Sorry, she was sorry. I'd given her everything, my money, my time, my trust, my name, and she was sorry. I wanted to scream, to rage, to demand she leave immediately. But instead I just sat there, numb, broken, staring at the woman I thought I knew. "When are you leaving?" I asked quietly. "Next week," she said. "I stay with friend. In Thai community here." I nodded slowly. "I'll call you a cab." She moved out 3 days later. I helped her carry her suitcase down to the street, paid for the taxi, watched it drive away. She didn't look back. When I went back upstairs, the flat felt impossibly empty. I sat on the couch staring at nothing and saw something glinting on the kitchen counter. The ring, the simple silver ring I'd proposed with in Pai. She'd left it there, like it meant nothing, like I meant nothing. I spent the next 2 months alone, So I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not my sister, not my old colleagues, not even David, though I'm sure he would have said he warned me. I just sat in my flat and tried to make sense of how I'd been so stupid. I'd seen the red flags, the distance, the lies, the coldness. I'd ignored them all because I was lonely, because I wanted to believe someone could love me again, because I thought I could save her. I opened my laptop one night and calculated what I'd spent. Visa application fees, lawyer costs, English test, travel to Bangkok, her rent in Chiang Mai, food, her mother's medicine, flights to the UK, national insurance application help. Nearly £15,000. My savings, which I'd planned to live on for years, were gone. Depleted. I'd funded her escape and called it love, but the money wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing I'd ignored every warning sign because I wanted to feel needed, because being her hero felt better than being alone. I wasn't a victim. I was a fool. A lonely, desperate fool who mistook transaction for affection. I thought about sending her an email. I drafted it a dozen times. You taught me more than I ever taught you. You taught me that sometimes the people we love most are the ones we never really knew. I hope your life in the UK is everything you wanted. I hope it was worth it, but I never sent it. She wouldn't care. She'd already moved on. One Saturday, I went back to the cafe where Anne and I used to meet in Chiang Mai. Except I wasn't in Chiang Mai, I was in Manchester, sitting in a Costa, drinking overpriced coffee, watching couples laugh and talk. I realized I'd been looking for her everywhere, in every dark-haired woman, in every accented voice, in every moment of silence. I had to let her go. Not because I'd forgiven her, but because holding on was killing me. It's been a year now. I heard through David, who eventually reached out after months of silence, that Anne got her indefinite leave to remain. She's working at a hotel in London, living with her boyfriend, the one from Thailand. They're engaged, apparently, planning a real wedding, the kind she never wanted with me. I don't hate her. I thought I would. I thought I'd spend years bitter and angry and resentful, but I don't. She did what she needed to survive. She saw an opportunity and took it. I just wish I hadn't been so willing to be used. I'm back teaching now, part-time, at an adult education center in Salford. ESL classes for refugees and asylum seekers, people who've lost everything and are trying to rebuild in a country that doesn't always want them. I like it. I'm useful again. But I'm different now, careful, guarded. I don't confuse kindness for love anymore. I don't mistake gratitude for affection. I've learned to see the difference. Sometimes late at night, I think about her sitting in that front row desk in Chiang Mai, notebook open, smiling up at me. Teacher Graham, can I practice more? I wonder if any of it was real, if she ever saw me as more than a means to an end. If there was ever a moment, just one, where she actually cared. I'll never know. And maybe that's the point. Maybe some questions aren't meant to be answered. She got her citizenship. I got my lesson. I just paid a much higher price than I ever intended. I look out the window at the Manchester rain, the grey sky, the life I've rebuilt from nothing, and I realize something. I'm still here. Broken, yes. Wiser, certainly. But still here, still breathing, still teaching, still trying to find purpose in a world that took everything and gave nothing back. And maybe that's enough. Maybe survival is its own kind of victory. I close my laptop, pick up a student's essay and start reading. Life continues. And so do I.